Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is DanJohnUniversity.com, podcast number 94. I'm Dan John, and it's nice to have you here with us. Thank you. Let's get started. We have a question from Scott, and Scott says, my teenager and I have similar goals. I'm 43 and he's 15. That's interesting. We both want to improve our primary sport, running, while still gaining strength and shredding body fat. So improve your running, get stronger, get shredded. There you go. There's a combination for you. I was thinking of trying for 8 weeks because anything will work for that long. Thank you. It will. The workout below. Armor building complex alternating with swings for 3 rounds to warm up. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of squats and a lot of swings. 2 or 3 sets of either squat or or deadlift done heavy. A, B, A, B, A, B. Okay, so alternating 3 days a week. Good. 3 sets of a barbell complex, followed by easier run day. I just did a trial run and was done in under 20 minutes. That's perfect as it lets us move to our primary goals. What do you think? Give it a go? Add carries? Yeah, Scott, let's not add carries yet. Let's just see how all these complexes do first. You're doing armor building complex, so that's, every round that's 3 front squats, and that's going to add up quickly. You're doing lots of swings, you're doing squats, you're doing barbell complexes. That's a lot of volume right there, and then you run. So if you run right after, I think for body fat purposes, that easy run followed by that workout is probably the best thing you can do. If you're in track and field, or if you do 10Ks or 5Ks, the nice thing is you will have an ability to measure the running side of things. Your measurement on your body fat and your shredding, that'll be a little tougher. I think that maybe pictures will be fine, but it may be worth, going to get one of those real fancy screens where they take a picture of your body and you see all your fat and all that. My only thinking then is that you easily could lose weight on this program, but you might not lose fat. Obviously you would, but it's always kind of hard to tell if you actually lose any or not. No, I'd say give it a go. And then at the end of your 8 weeks, maybe add some loaded carries and see if the loaded carries work better or not work as well as the other stuff. And do that for another 8 weeks, and then give it a shot at doing both. That'll give you plenty of time. We're looking at almost half a year from now, almost. And that'll give you plenty of time. If anything like overtraining is going to happen, it'll give you plenty of time to deal with that too. I would like you to get back to me, Scott. I think this is a good idea. Thank you. Mahalo writes us, recently mentioned the idea of a clean and press workout done with a light kettlebell, alternating hands each rep for an hour. Yeah, I read that online. I don't know if I recommend it. Could you please elaborate further on this approach? Yeah, I read it online. I don't really know much more. This guy decided this was the answer to all programs. Clean and press right, clean and press rep left, and just keep going. That's all I know. I think it's called 4x4 or something like that. I don't know. Would you take a rest after completing a rep with each arm, or would the aim to be to do one continuous set? The way he did it was one continuous set. This isn't my program. I would suggest doing it the way he does it. Clean and press left, clean and press right. See you in an hour. That's a lot of work. And what would be the benefits of this kind of workout? I know that high rep full stuff, we were talking about this, Mike Brown and I, the other day, the idea that those little engines of the body, the mitochondria, this perhaps builds mitochondria, those internal furnaces. All I can tell you is that I read it. I obviously was interested because I mentioned it. I haven't done it, and I think there's a real good chance I won't. But I like this kind of idea. I like anytime you do something that's, kind of long, doable over a long period, always interests me. Like, I don't know, like walking the Appalachian Trail, or, doing one of those long hikes. No one day is hard, but, when you add them up, they're all kind of hard. How would you compare it with the long cycle marathon? I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, Mahalo. There's just a lot of stuff I read, but I don't always understand things. I know the Olympic lifts, I know loaded carries, I know kettlebells, I know what I know. And then when people add little tweaks, I sometimes find them interesting academically, but I don't necessarily find them, like I don't know of a single athlete I would ever have do that. I don't know of a single general population person I'd ever have do that. Though, I'm saying this out loud, and then tomorrow, that'll be the answer to the thing I'm trying to get someone to help. Yeah, so I hope that helps. I'm sorry. We got a question from Marco. I heard on some podcast or interview that you mentioned Brad Pitt in Fight Club and comment on his physique. That would not be true. The only time I talk about Brad Pitt is in the movie Troy. The movie Troy, I had a chance to go to another movie or Troy, and I picked Troy. And as I was watching it, I realized it was the most disastrous movie I've ever seen. It was horrid. And then stop. Except for when Brad Pitt as Achilles is on the screen. And I don't say it right, but there was an old Greek word called arete or something like that. Arete. And it's this idea of striving for perfection. And when you watch Brad Pitt in that movie, he completely summarizes what arete is. A phrase we use in track and field from Charlie Francis, looks right, flies right. My goal to always have the most beautiful technique. Sometimes you look at someone throwing, you're like, yeah, that's gorgeous. And that's what arete is. And that's what Brad Pitt is. Talking with my friends, I came to the conclusion that most males would rather look like Brad than, for example, some powerlifter with a big belly. Yeah, I mean, unless you're trying to pull 800 pounds, and then you probably want to look more like that powerlifter. Bodybuilders and models are not in the equation because they're literally obsessed with their looks, and that is certainly not healthy. I would like to know what is a good and normal look for me. Well, for me, I like men to have strong shoulders. To me, I'm a big fan of the V shape. I mean, I think that's the way to go. I think men should have legs. Nothing makes me more grossed out than those little, when you go to amusement parks and you see the young guys and they're strutting around like this, and you look at their legs and they got, little pin legs. But I do think, I don't have an example. You could argue like some of the discus throwers in the 80s, that they had a look that I thought was pretty amazing. If you look at pictures of David Riegert, the great Soviet lifter in his prime, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how we all want to look when we grow up. He had a teammate, I think it might have been Kolev, a 90 kilo lifter. I mean, that's the way I always want to look, ripped to shreds, massive spinal erectors, massive shoulders, massive thighs. But, it's just not that important to me. You just don't roll out of bed and look like this, folks. I don't know, Marco. I hope that helps. Thank you. We got a question from Auntie. I'm introvert and sometimes afraid of other people's opinions, so I don't post on social media, doing marketing and that kind of thing. Okay. I love fitness and exercise, but sometimes I think that I choose wrong occupation because I'm shy and don't know how to market myself. Do you have some words of wisdom for a young coach who is at the start? Should I post exercise on social media and telling people that they can train with me, or should I just rely on word of mouth? Well, that's an interesting question. I never posted on social media for the bulk of my career, and there's a good reason. There's no such thing as it. I just was talking to a former track coach friend of mine, and he was talking about how I would go down to these rural parts of Utah and coach the discus and shot because they didn't have a lot of help down there. And I said, how did you find out about me? And honestly, it was a game of telephone. This guy told this guy who told this guy who told that guy who told that guy who told this guy. And it was kind of funny to hear it because in this day and age, I would just post a video and say, hi, I'm Dan John, the most elite discus coach. And I would tell you from the heart, I still think the best advertising you have is your clients. You can say all this crap all you like, say you're, I am, Botswana's #1 fat loss, coach, and that's fine. But my clients are going to be the best advertising I have. There's a phrase we sometimes use in advertising called mavens, and I'd much rather have 10 mavens, people going out there selling their success stories working with me. Of course, there might not be 10, and they'll do more. They'll bring me in more clients than some funny thing or some interesting thing I post online. One of the things I have noticed is that if I put a lot of work into a social media post, if I really try hard to make something important and informative, I get no feedback, zero feedback from it. If I post a picture of me racing on my bicycle against my grandson, I get 200 comments. I don't know what makes social media move. Yeah, I think you should have a web presence that should have your fees and how to find you and directions to your gym and all that kind of stuff. But if you post a video and you have bad technique, you're just adding to the problem. I like your point, and I am interested that a coach who's an introvert, that by yourself might be a really interesting thing for you to start exploring. I'm not sure I've ever, read anybody talk about, the introverted coach, but there's great value. I think through my career of a lot of people who were, it's going to sound really weird, but born to be assistant coaches. And a couple of them are amazing people. The athletes speak so highly of them generations, decades later, because those are the one who cared the most. So there's room for you in this industry. But remember, it's your production is going to be the most important thing for your success, not entirely how you sell yourself. Now, there's going to be people online who are going to disagree with me, but I think you'll be happy if you focus on the quality of your coaching and not on being somebody you're not. Okay, thank you. We have a question from Douglas. He says, I've recently purchased a sled and I plan to introduce it into my training. Sled training sled. Introducing sled to my training. Yeah. Okay, that funny? Okay. Do you have any advice on how and where is best to start and progress with it? It has 2 handles for pushing and intend on using straps for pulling. Perfect. I could make it light, medium, or heavy. So he's going to ask, what do you think? Well, everything works. So I like using sleds as prowlers. That's pushing the car, okay? By the way, I like pushing cars for training too. I still think the car is the most underrated. Most of my listeners already have one. Here, get the car, pretend, just tell all your clients you're out of gas, just drive, just go to all your clients' homes, have client A push you to client B's home, client B push you to client C's home. That's be a great workout. I like to go lighter on sled. So if you're using it as a prowler, I don't like you going massively heavy. I think it's far more important to have that. I mentally think of marching in place when we're doing prowlers, pump, 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 pump. Don't let the feet turn out and start turning into a huge waddle. With sleds, the same issue has. If you start to overload a sled, you again, your feet turn out and you start to wallow a little bit, and you really aren't successfully using a sled the way I think it'd be. I err on more light, let's say light medium is where I'd rather have the sled being used. Since you're going to use it as a sled and as a prowler, here's an idea. 3 days a week, prowler 1 day, backwards sled pulls. So you have your hands in the kind of water ski position, straight arms walking backwards. Great for the knees. Oh my God, great for the knees. And on the third day of the week, use it sled style like we did back when I was first training back in the 60s and 70s, where you just grab and sprint with the sled. It's like running hills. If you have hills near your house, you really don't need sleds. You can sprint up hills and you can run backwards up hills and get most of the benefits of sleds. But there is something magical about the Prowler car pushing. There's something magical about it. And yeah, it's hard. Gosh, I hope that helps. I do have a rule about loaded carries, and that's including Prowlers and sleds. Try to never have the same workout twice. Just keep constantly trying to vary things up. So, maybe one day you do throw all the kids on the Prowler and you push it, a relatively short distance. There is a day you go fairly light. And I have that one workout that Mitch gave me where I do 8 goblet squats, about a 20-meter Prowler push, 8 push-ups. And I had the ultimate time I did that, the hardest of all of them, was when I did 20 rounds of it. So 160 goblet squats. It's a lot of goblet squats. Turned out to be 400 meters of sleds, of Prowlers, which is a lot of Prowlers, and 160 push-ups. And that's a lot of work, folks. Very, very simple, but it really worked well. Gosh, I hope that helps. Thank you, and good luck to you on this. We have a question from Noah. I was wondering if you had any insight how the late, great Jack LaLanne trained, both to get a muscular physique and for extreme endurance. I wouldn't say Jack LaLanne was ever what most people consider extremely. He was a small man. He was in great shape. I watched him as a child because, as I recall, the show was filmed out of San Francisco, and as I recall, and if you go to YouTube, he'll tell you how he trained. A whole bunch of his videos are on YouTube, and the one he talks about, these are poisonous foods, and he's got white sugar and white flour in there. I still laugh because in the 50s and 60s, he was way ahead of everybody else on how terrible sugar and white flour were ultimately going to be. He would get mad at candies and cakes and pies. He was a volume guy. I remember Dick Notmeyer telling me one time that he had a standing bet that nobody could follow his workout. But even then, I was in junior college, and I thought, well, technically it'd be really hard for many people on the planet to do my workout. Throw the discus throw the discus, run hills, snatch and clean and jerk these loads, front squat that load. It'd be really, there's not many people on the planet who could do that. As I understand it, Jack was very good at endurance because he was very good at endurance. That's what he focused on. Noah follows up with what Jack would tell you. I definitely need to work on the eating better side of things, which he was a master of. Yeah, I know that he got into those juicing and stuff like that. I don't know if he was always into it. One of the problems you'll have with any TV personality is, there's no other way to say it. They're in it for the money, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when you get hired to talk about a juicer or a machine that does something, you're getting paid by the company to say it's the best thing you've ever done, which is always very strange. But there really isn't all that much information on how he trained, other than the fact that he trained nearly every day, which he did, and incorporated both weight training and swimming into his routine. There is an article somewhere that actually does, and I want to say it's like Time or Newsweek. It was a normal, magazine. It wasn't Strength and Health or one of the muscle magazines that went through his training, and it was calisthenics and swimming. And as I recall, he actually did some calisthenics while swimming, so he kind of did that. I hope that helps. That's all I know. I know that he trained long and hard, and if this is true, I got to be careful here. But as I understand it, he had a brother who I think ran a restaurant, or he was in the food industry somehow, who never trained, never took care of his health, and actually lived longer than Jack. So I've heard that's true, and I use that example all the time when I talk about the importance of genetics when we talk about longevity. Gosh, I hope that helps. Thank you. We have a question from Leonardo. And Leonardo says this: my problem is that I'm too invested and sometimes too serious when training clients. I don't think that's bad, but let's go. Before each individual or group training, I always write everything to be sure that we're going to do what is needed. That is a problem because I sometimes expect my clients to be very disciplined. You expect your clients to be disciplined. Yeah, there's just not that many of them. And I forget to speak between sets. Suppose I strive for perfectionism, but I feel that is what is making me tired and not very interesting to clients. Do you have any advice on how to relax and not be so hard on yourself? The coaching is teaching. There's a couple of things I would recommend. And the first one is the most difficult thing I can tell you as a teacher, professor, coach, anything. Film yourself. Ask a client if it's okay to film the session, and then don't watch the client's techniques, although there is value in that. Watch yourself coach, and if possible, watch yourself coach with a trusted friend who will be, and tell the trusted friend that I'm too invested and sometimes too serious. And what you'll begin to pick up on is, and you might have to do it 2 or 3 times, because the first time you'll tend to play to the camera. I want you to try to ignore it. That's very difficult. That's number 1, and then number 2 is like a 9. But number 2 is to have someone you trust sit and take notes while you coach. And the reason I'm having an outside observer do it is what you're doing wrong. I can guarantee it. But having someone else say, okay, here, and here, specifically here, and here, will help you a lot. It doesn't have to be perfect. No coach is perfect. But these issues that you're talking about will come up. My belief on coaching and cueing is different than most. Leonardo, when the person is actively doing something, I only cue, which is stay tall, go, very, spread your chest, very, very simple things that we've mentioned over and over. The coaching happens during the rest period. The coaching is during the rest period, then you demonstrate, then you add, then you clarify. So for me, I think you cue during movement and coach during rest periods or after the session. The nice thing about being a track coach, well, on paper we're supposed to do this, but you're never supposed to talk to your athletes while they compete. And it bothers me at the Olympics when coaches who are trying to make a name for themselves are being filmed in the stands. You're not supposed to coach at all. And it bothers me to see it. But what you'll find is if you start focusing on staying to cues only during movement and coaching only during rest periods, maybe some of this stuff will naturally clear itself up. Those are 2 good pieces of advice. I hope you use them. Thank you. We got a question from Alejandro. And he says, I just came out of college and started my career as a fitness coach. I would like to combine working with recreational people and athletes. Okay. I feel a little bit lost and don't know how to begin, how to make myself recognizable. I have knowledge, but I lack experience and social skills. Well, the social skills one, man, that's part of what you're supposed to be doing when you're in college. I suppose that beginning is the hardest part, sure. Well begun is half done. I mean, I think that's Mary Poppins. And I would like to hear some words of wisdom from an experienced coach who saw everything. Well, I haven't seen everything, okay? It says in Frank Herbert's book, Dune, that in the beginning, balance is most important. I would say, Alejandro, that you have weaknesses and you have strengths. One of the jobs that you want to start to deal with in the beginning is an honest evaluation of what your well, I like the word gaps better than weakness. What are the things you absolutely are clueless about? It could be, it seems like you're young, and I don't know, I'm just guessing, but, at your age, you're going to be clueless about training older clients. You're going to be clueless about recovery with middle-aged and older clients. You're going to be clueless about, I got to tell you, an interesting thing you're going to be clueless with people who will pay a lot of money is the importance of being well-read, know your movies, know your culture. I mean, maybe you and your buddies, I don't know, this is going to age me, but you guys rocked out to 5 bands all through college, Boston or Blue Oyster Cult or whatever. I have no idea. But what you're going to find is a lot of your clients, their musical interests, their musical tastes aren't those. And you're going to have to branch out your appreciation of music. You're going to have to branch out your appreciation of movies, because movies are going to come up. Movies, the news. I mean, I think it's very important as a coach to know what's going on. When I was a coach in high schools, I thought it was really important to know about prom, anything that happened at prom that might be an issue. I thought it was important to know what happened in almost every sports team. Don't have to know, I mean, you have to see the game, but, if you live in an area that has a famous sports program, you really should know a little bit about the history. You're going to have a client say, they were at the, I saw Gaylord Perry, I think, duke it out with Sandy Koufax in my youth. It might have been Juan Marichal, but these are these Dodgers and Giants games that were just, 1-0 games. And every at bat was crucial. If I'm talking about this great memory and you're like, who? I don't know. It's a general thing, but it's important. What do you know about nutrition? What do you know? Because nutrition, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it in your state or country, but your clients ask you about nutrition all the time. But never anything intelligent. Never about macronutrients and eating vegetables. It's always about some new diet they read. So oddly, you're going to have to stay attuned to, I'm guessing what the magazine is now, but like People magazine or whatever. And every time some little Hollywood celebrity comes up with this new diet thing, you got to know it at some level. It seems there for a couple of years that England was pumping out these, kind of crazy diets over and over. And when they finally got to the States, I knew about them when they got here, and I was able to kind of help people and kind of move ahead a little bit. That's where you start, and it's first off filling the gaps of things you don't know, and then after that and by the way, and so it's nutrition, it's recovery, those things, but it's also just general stuff in the community and the area you're from. And then after that, it's just, learning from your experience. This works, this doesn't. I mean, I got to tell you, man, I've done a few things as a teacher and a coach where I've literally gone, nope, we're not doing this anymore. Nope. It was such a great idea when we discussed it in the coach's office, and it was a horrible idea when we got out there. So learn from your own experience. Do your best to get involved in community as best you can. Of course, I speak at Perform Better, but I think an event like the 3-day Perform Better Summit is really, really helpful for you. To be sitting around a whole bunch of people who are doing what you do, and some of the best and brightest in speaking on it. So, boy, I hope that helps. And let me know how it goes. We have a question from Paul. I know in one of your kettlebell workshops, you described the two-handed swing, the goblet squat, and the Turkish get-up as the whales of the kettlebell world. Yeah, actually, the phrase I use is a Polynesian phrase, sitting on a whale, fishing for minnows. and really it's a derogatory thing I say about most idiots. Most people in fitness always miss the big point. Let me give you some big points. Protein and veggies and drink water. Sleep. The swing, goblet squat, Turkish get up. Here, just do that and you'll be happy as you can ever be in your whole life. How would you recommend building a general program around these movements? Paul, boy, do I have good news for you. I have a book on it. It's called The Hardstyle Kettlebell Challenge, and I give you more information than you'll ever want on how to program those 3 exercises. I beat it to death, in fact. I generally don't recommend my own work on this, but this is what I wrote the book for. And it's well as illustrated. There is one typo in there, but it has program. It has everything you ever think you need to know. I hope that helps. Well, there you go, folks. That's episode number 94. Remember, if you want to listen to everything I have, danjohnuniversity.com would be your first stop. But we're also over at Patreon at Coach Dan John. And remember, my YouTube channel is sneaking up on 2,000 videos. So there's a good chance we've covered it already. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.